Last year, she was one of them.
Okay,
Right?
cool.
I'm a big draw. Really, I draw big. I'm really big.
Are we starting right now? What's
We'll let a
happening?
few people come in.
Okay,
We'll wait.
well,
I'm trying. Can you open that for me?
I can
I'm
try.
really weak anymore.
Hey, that's okay, so am I.
No, you're still young. I just had my birthday, January. Anybody a January birthday person? Do we have a January 28 in here?
Yes.
That's me, dude. Cowabunga, dude. I turned 80 in January. I'm serious. I didn't want anybody to know that for the longest time, but I'm proud of it, that I frickin' lived 80 years, and I still feel 79, though. It's unbelievable. No, I'm blessed. The good Lord blessed me to be here. I've lost a lot of friends, you know, over the time. That's a tough part of this, but truly blessed that I'm 80 years old and doing this, still doing this. I'm good. I feel good. I feel as good as I did last year.
Great.
Okay. Did you get that?
I did, I
I
opened
got
it.
a bad hand. What happens when you get a little? There's two things about when you get older. Let's see if there's anybody here that looks old. There isn't really.
Don't point him
I
out.
think I'm the oldest guy. Holy Jesus, that guy's really old. It's aren't you? Is that the Loch Ness? What's the guy they're looking for? That's him. Is that a real beard?
I like it.
For real? Stand up for a minute. Are you kidding me? Stand up. That's awesome. Can you get up? Yeah, okay. How old are you?
I'm only 69.
Shoot, good year. My wife's a 69er. She always says, nothing finer than to be a 69er. There's a joke there, but there's ladies here. I'll tell you, come to me later, I'll tell you the joke. I have respect for the ladies. Right, Megan?
Yeah.
Yes. My dear friend Megan and her guy Travis are here. Megan is the assistant to Tim Moore, Clint Eastwood's producer, and also to Clint. She's really very creative and smart. My gal Megan right here. Give Megan a nice hand. She's of course. And Clint made his last, well, I can't say that. He says it's not his last picture. But his picture, if you've seen Juror number 2 or you haven't, watch it. It's the ending. Sam agrees. The ending is like, whoa. There wasn't a sound at that screening at the end of that picture. And it's so Clint. I got goosebumps. Anyway, the older I get, the more of a sap I am. I cry when I go to Whataburger, which is in Arizona. I left Long Beach 5 years ago. I got the heck out of here. Well, the grandkids moved over to Arizona, so that's the gravity pull. I went to high school and college. I'm a Sun Devil. I see you're a Texas. Did you go to Texas?
I think it was Texas, yeah.
Hook 'em horns. Okay, huh? Uh-oh, where'd you go? Oklahoma. That's great. I lived in Enid. My dad was in the Air Force. You know Enid, Oklahoma?
My dad was born there.
What? No, swear to God. This is my life. I tell you, I gotta tell you real quick. I think it's the older you get, the smaller your world gets, and I'm getting smaller. If I shrink it 1 more inch and I'm riding at Del Mar next year, I told my doctor. They measured me and said I'm 5'4". I used to be 5'6". I said, 1 more inch, I'm on a horse at Del Mar next season. But my dad was in the Air Force and we lived in Enid. The first college football game he took me to was Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and if Bud Wilkins lost his 40-game streak at that game I went to. It's one of the iconic football games. Boomer Sooner, Texas, this is great. You two can duke it out later. That's how we'll end the show today.
We're good.
We'll do kind of a sumo wrestle thing.
It's clean heat, we're good.
Are we gonna start?
We'll do this
Bobby,
thing.
ready?
Ready? Yeah, go
Ready, rock
ahead.
and roll?
Go ahead.
Okay.
So,
Sorry to stop.
hey, I felt good.
It would
don't
never
I?
end.
I get filled. Okay.
Thank you for coming. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 35th anniversary panel. It's been 35 years since that iconic film. And we have, to my left, the writer of said film, Bobby Herbeck, also a producer, and a comedian, and an actor, and a writer, all kinds of stuff.
Not in order necessarily, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
and then we have Adrian from Shoe Palace as well.
Adrian, you need
And my name's Sam Rocco. I'm a writer, director, film professor, stuff like that.
At SC.
So, sure, yeah.
Okay.
And okay, so we're gonna get into it, I guess,
Yeah.
Bobby. So the first thing I want to know, and I think everyone else wants to know, is how did you even get involved with this movie to begin?
I have no idea.
Okay.
No.
Panel's open.
So I was doing, trying to not kill the whole. How much time do we have on this panel?
An hour.
45? Okay, so I gotta break this. No, we're good. We can do 45 in our sleep. So anyway, first of all, when I talk to kids, I tell them this, not this young, but there's young people here. If you're starting your careers out or your life out, I tell them that you set a course and you go for it, and what's gonna happen on that path is you're gonna hit forks in the road. I went to Hollywood to be an actor out of Arizona State, and I got a really good agent, and I was doing really great. And then the Comedy Store opened in April of '72, and instead of, I was gonna go to New York as an actor, and the Comedy Store opened, and I went, no, I'd always had done, even in high school, I wrote comedy sketches and stuff in high school for the assemblies. And the Comedy Store opened and gave all of us, this core group, a place to hone what we hope would be a craft. And I won't go in great detail on that, but just to tell you that when I went to the Comedy Store, we did 3 shows a night. There weren't enough comics. You can't even get on open mic night barely anymore. And now there's comedy stores everywhere, wherever you go, and there's a million comedians, you know. So my point is, this is where I was going. Never thinking I was going to be sitting in a room writing by myself. And then I was on the road. This is some years later. I drove around the country doing stand-up, booking myself. And then I was home. I was opening for Feliciano, Jose. And I was home. I had a 2-week break, and my agent called and said, get over to KTTV, which was Channel 11 back then. They're not there. It's not there anymore. To a new show called Different Strokes. And I said, they're looking for a warm-up guy. I said, what the hell's a warm-up guy? Just go over there and tell you what to do. You know what a warm-up person is? They bring an audience in, and my job is to get you up, like I'm doing today. I'm doing a warm-up gig. Get you up and feeling good and laughing, but make sure that you keep your butts in your seat and you get through this shoot. And as that time went on, I did the warm-up for Jefferson's, Give Me a Break, Facts of Life, Silver Spoons. I was the warm-up king in Hollywood. There was nobody doing this job. The union came to me, because it was usually a producer, Norman Lear did them, but he got too busy. And so the union came to me one day, Kathy in Banks, and she said, what are they paying you? I said, I'm getting $85 a show. And she said, what? I would be out there, sometimes they'd have a breakdown on the cameras or something. I would have to hold an audience for an hour to make sure they didn't leave. And it was fun. It was all improv for me. When I first started, they gave me some candy, said, throw this at the audience. I said, they're not seals. They're not throwing candy at people. And I got up because every one of you has a story. And I learned this a long time ago. Everyone, if I got each one of you, or I get a couple of you, you have a story you can tell me. Some about your life or someone in your family. And that to me, and I had a very strong improv ground. I was one of the first people that was what became the Groundlings. We started out of the Comedy Store, if you've heard of the Groundlings, and how many great people came out of the Groundlings. It started with us in the basement of the Comedy Store and grew from there. We put a sketch show on in Hollywood. We were the only one in town. The first half was sketches, the second half was improv. And after we got great reviews, and after one show, a man named Lorne Michaels came backstage and said, I got a pilot I'm going to do. NBC wants to do Saturday Night Live. He wanted us because we were a group. We were a ready-made package. And we were all getting parts, and we go, can we get back to you on that? And the only one that went from our group was Lorraine Newman. And we watched the first time it came on the air, and we're all, a bunch of us comedians were in the guy's apartment, and I said, we screwed up, right? I met Lauren 30 years later. Al Franken invited me to, I was in New York at 30 Rock for the rap party. And Ratzenberger, John's there, from Cliff Clavin from Cheers, and George Wendt. And we're sitting there talking, I'm telling this story I just told you, and I said, I didn't say screwed up, but there's young people here. And here comes Lauren. He says, Georgie, Ratzy, how you doing? This and that. And Al said, you remember Bobby Herbeck? He goes, no. He said, Comedy Store players? He said, oh yeah. And as he walked away, he goes, you guys screwed up. I said, that's funny, that's what I said 30 years ago. We screwed up. But, so then he went to Chicago and got the Saturday Night Live, got the Second City group. Anyway, my point I'm trying, I'll get to it hopefully, is that this is that path you go along. We said no to that. My first acting part, I told the guys, was in a movie called Tora, Tora, Tora. At the same time, I was asked to play Radar in the movie MASH. If you've seen the MASH, there's people old enough, I think. My agent said, no one's going to go see that movie. Everybody's going to go see Tora, Tora, Tora. Wrong. But I did do a couple of MASH episodes, and Gary Berghoff made it clear to everybody when I came on the set that I had given up, that my agent put me in another movie. And Gary just put his arm around. I want to thank Bobby for the motorhome and my kids' college and the house in Malibu, the cabin that we had in college. I said, that's enough, Gary. So anyway, so I started working with Norma Lear, those shows, and then we used to tape. They don't do it anymore. We used to do a taping, have a dinner break, go over the script, what laughs worked, what didn't, and they punch the script up. And then we go back and do a second taping with a different audience, and they edit the two shows together. Now they just do one show, I don't understand. Anyway, once I felt comfortable, I'd go, what if Gary said this or that? And they said, yeah. And so one day, the man who created the show, Howard Leeds, he said to me, he threw a script over, he said, take that and punch it up, the script. And this took me down a different path, and they mentored me as a writer. And I was working, won't mean anything to most of you. I was writing with guys who wrote for Sid Caesar in these shows. I was learning, not knowing at the time, some of the greatest sitcom writers ever. It was my training ground. So here I am, I'm saying now my path goes to that, still doing stand-up, and they gave me acting parts. I'm on those shows as an actor. I had a trifecta. I'm doing the warm-up, I'm writing, and I'm acting on these shows, which was just, I had it made. And that led me to learn how to write a little bit. Are you leaving already? Oh no, you're taking my side. Is this good? This is my best side. Okay. Anyway, so I went to a luncheon, and there was a gentleman that was a guest sitting next to me, and I got him, did some stand-up, and we sat down, and we get to talk, and I went to ASU, he went to the U of A. I'm a Fiji, turns out he's a Fiji, our fraternity's Phi Beta. And then we looked at each other and said, well, hell, Herbeck, Tom, we used to party together back in my day. All these years later, that's what I said, small world, right? I worked on Small Wonder, too. That's another time. Anyway, so Tom Gray ran Golden Harvest Productions, which made the Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan movies. And he said, you're really funny. Well, tell me about you. He said, I'm writing, but I just told you what I was doing. Warm-ups, writing for Different Strokes, Jefferson, D. And he said, do you have any movie ideas? And I said, sure. He said, well, call me tomorrow, we'll have a pitch, we'll set up. I went in, pitched him a movie, and he bought it. And I'm writing, it's called Department Store. Never got made. I just talked to him after all these years. I wanted him to come today, he's too shy. But I'm writing this movie, Department Store. You're leaving? What did I say? Okay. Anyway, I know I'll get to Turtles in another hour. Anyway, I'm just trying to make my point. I hope you understand where I'm going with this, is that, but for where I was led, I'm never doing this. And so I'm doing all of this, and Tom buys the pitch. I'm writing that movie, he's paying me to write that movie, and my buddy calls me that I had met through his dad, and I had done, so he had to deal with Disney, and he did the Louse Mouseketeers, Kim Dawson, who's the producer on this picture. That was Timberlake and that whole group. And I did some other special shows with him, and did the warm-up, did some writing, and did some performing. And he called me one day. I lived in Long Beach, he lived in Newport. He said, Herbs, meet me at the In-N-Out Burger in Westminster. I'm in the deal with In-N-Out Burger right now to put a plaque at this In-N-Out Burger, because there should be one. And we sat on the grassy knoll of on Springdale, right up to 405, and he showed me Ninja Turtles. It was just on as a kid's show. And Playmates was the first toy company. They paid for the pilot. That's how much they believed in it. And it just, everything, all the stars lined up. And I got it right away. Keith, I said, this is cool. He said, well, you're working for the company that shoot this. All you need are the best martial arts guys in turtle costumes that shoot your film. Which it didn't work out that way because of the stunts. And so 3 months, I'm going to Tom, I'm pitching this in Hollywood. I went to Ronnie Howard and Brian Grazer, and I was pitching it to them, and the whole time they're going, Turtles? Yeah. What's their names? Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael, and they kept sniggering at me. And so I thought Ronnie would get, he's got a bunch of kids. And so They said, yeah, we'll get back to you. Thanks for coming in. They called my agent and said, who's the stoner that came in here with the turtle thing? Thought I was smoking pot. And my agent said, I don't know about the pot, but the turtles are real. They're on TV. Now, I tell people, when I talk to kids, I tell them, you didn't have these, you didn't have an Xbox, you didn't have a PlayStation, you had a TV. And kids watched TV then. Not that they don't now, but more. Those of you who are kids, know this. The parents didn't know what they were watching. They didn't even know about turtles. Tom, my boss, didn't know about turtles. I finally, one night we went out because he said, if you bring this pigeon, he called it pigeon turtles. You bring pigeon turtles up one more time, I'm going to fire you. Finish the movie I'm paying you for. And we went for a drink at the Beverly Wilshire one night, and he said something about his kids, and I said, how old are your kids? 10 and 12. I said, Tom, I won't bring it up again. Go home tonight and ask them about the turtles. And by the time I got home back to Long Beach, and we used to have a thing called a recorder call. It was your, remember the answer machine, early answer machine. Tom goes, Elizabeth, hey, Herbs, babes. Herb, those two words mean I close the deal. Get your buddy and meet me for breakfast in Westwood tomorrow. I call Kim, we go. Tom just sent me an article, it was in the LA Times. It's always called Saved by a Cheek is the article. We pitch it to him, and he goes, just not us. And he's sliding out of the booth, and he had one butt cheek on the booth. And Tim said, there is the licensing. And Tom goes, well, what about it? He said, pajamas, blankets, all kinds of tchotchkes, Star Wars, George Lucas. You know, somebody was talking today how Fox gave George Lucas all the licensing rights back then, and they forever regretted it, because that's where he made his money. He got all the licensing. Anyway, next thing I know, Tom calls me 2 days later, and he says, Herbs, pack a suitcase, we're going to Massachusetts, where Peter and Kevin were. Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, who did the comic book. We've got to convince them we're the company to make the movie, which we did. We went, we did. I come back, and he says, pack a trunk, you're going to England. What, going to England? Well, that's where the director, Steve Barron, was. And I went and wrote it in England. And Jim Henson had the creature shop there, and Henson would have me come, and it's so cool. I watch it from the drawings to the clay models. I just watched it morph. And he'd come in, and he had a little room for me to sit and work. And he came and sat across me on the desk, he's just a lovely man, and he goes, Bobby. Every time I'd come, he goes, so what do you think? I said, it's great. It's great. I was so intimidated. What do I know? I'm writing this thing. So he came one day and said, Bobby, you're being shy. Tell me something you think it needs. And I said, maybe you put little liver spots on her forehead. That's my signature, the liver spots on the forehead. Yeah. And he said, yeah, interesting idea. Because he wanted me to be part of that process. So, thrill of my life. It was like I was in a dream. Now, has anybody seen the movies that made us on Netflix? It's a great show. It's about Forrest Gump, Flashdance, Home Alone, all these movies that barely ever made it to the screen. And this was Ninja Turtles. We were constantly stopped during the process. I've been in London writing it, and he calls me and said, take 2 weeks off, we got a problem. Well, Fox had pulled the money off the table. They were going to do the finishing money on the movie. Well, I thought it was $4 million. Just talking to Tom, he said it was $2 million. I said, what? Anyway, make a long story short, Bob Shea from New Line. In fact, right here, Megan. We got a project we're working on, and the gal that's got the script, turns out that she was the one at New Line, the reader that told New Line to make this movie. There's a small world again. I couldn't believe it when she told me that. Anyway, you're looking at me. Do you have another question? I'm boring everybody, I can tell.
I'm just going to let you go.
But
but
you'll be in this, eh?
The reception.
But
you know it was going to be such a big deal.
What do you mean?
The movie.
Did I?
Yeah, like did you expect?
Again, I tell the kids, go with your first instinct. I said, my father-in-law told me this years ago, you never make the right or wrong decision. You make a decision, and then you make it right, which I thought was really wise, something very wise and sage. And he's right. But when you second guess yourself, you screw yourself over. Go with your first. Take some guts, but do it, because it's right. And I knew that day at the In-N-Out Burger, you could see this, and how cool. No one's doing this. I mean, it was just also counterpoint. And when Peter and Kevin said when they were doing the comic, if you may have heard them talk, at least Kevin. When they were doing the comic book, they were just kind of probably smoking a bone, I always think, but that's nothing wrong with that. And they were just kind of kicking the tires on things that they were seeing how many stupid TV shows they were, and they said, what's the silliest thing, combination of things we can come up with? And they just evolved. Turtles, Renaissance painters' names, artists' names, and they just kept throwing us in the soup. And then they started drawing it. Now, if you see the first Gravity comic, here, I'll show you. If you can see this jacket, this is what the turtles look like if you've seen the first comic book, like that. Not like the ones in the movie, but these are cool. They're cool. I mean, somewhere along that, I think it was the TV series, changed that look. But anyway, so we go to England. He tells me to take 2 weeks off because they were hurting for money. Raymond Chow, World Golden Harvest, is only going to pay so much. And the only reason he agreed to do the movie, he didn't want to do it, it was his wife. The women rule. She said, Raymond, you must do this movie. It's adorable. She saw the cartoon. So he, yes ma'am, because it says in my marriage certificate with my wife, the smallest font you can see, you need a magnifying, it says, I'm the boss, Tammy Herbeck. So always remember that. The women are the boss, no matter what you think. So anyway, we get the movie going, and it's like warp speed. Then everything just fell into place. Once the script was done, then I had to have back surgery. I only got there for a couple of days of shoot in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Do you remember the scenes?
No. That I went to?
Yeah.
I think it was the garbage truck scene, and Kevin's in that scene. At the very end of the movie with the garbage
when
truck?
Casey Jones murders somebody?
Yes.
Cold blood?
Okay, let me tell you about this guy.
I love that scene.
He's got a short that he made, and I hate the word short, but I gotta say it. He's got a short he made, Casey Jones. And you can see it on YouTube.
Oh yeah, it's called The Fall of Casey Jones. It's like a proof of concept trailer.
The Fall of Casey Jones. Very talented. So, I have to share something with you. So anyway, let me finish this real quick. So, as you know, the movie premieres at Universal, and my wife and sons are there. My 2 boys were 14 and 16, and MC Hammer did some of the music, and to this day, we still have the picture, they got to have lunch with him. They were just like, this is so sweet, MC Hammer. Who's gonna come? I think I'm gonna try to get him to the San Diego Comic-Con. I do some shows with him in the summer at the Grove. He's getting in the she knows what I speak. And he said he would come and do the show, because Vanilla Ice, as you know, did the second one, and if you've seen his show, he brings 4 turtles to the show. What? Go Ninja Go, okay, good for you, babe. So you want me to stop? No.
So MC Hammer's going to be at your next panel? Is that what
I
you said?
think he said, well, he told me 5 years ago, we did the 30th anniversary, he'd be part of it. He gave me his card, and I told him I saw him last summer. I said, I called you 100. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. He said, well, I promise, Bobby, I'll come, whatever you want to do. We're trying to do some screenings. Something's going to happen in August. It's a secret even to me. Fathom Events, it's going to be in 800 theaters. I don't know who, I just know Fathom. There's a company I don't know about that's putting it. They got Domino's to jump in on this. I told them they should have Burger King. I just noticed Burger King's in that movie. Do you guys remember that? Where the kids are, the bad guys, they got a bag of Burger King right there. And I'm going, you gotta get Burger King on this too. This is money. So, anyway, so we're at Universal for the premiere, and I'm with my wife, and here comes Ronnie Howard and Brian Grazer. Now, Megan knows who I speak of. You know who Ronnie is, but Brian Grazer, you know, he's got hair like this. I mean, he's kind of freaky looking. And they start walking towards him. My wife goes, oh dear. And I said, don't stare and don't say a word. This is a very big producer, okay? And they came up and they go, no, Brian does. He said, we screwed up. I said, what do you know? It hasn't opened. No, we know, we screwed up. And he says, if you even have an idea for a ladybug, come and pitch it to us. Yeah. Now, I don't know if I have time to follow up on that story, but I did come across him some years later in a restaurant in the Buffalo Club in Santa Monica. And I was walking out with Ron Shelton, who wrote and directed Bull Durham, Tin Cup, and those movies. Great talent. And we're walking, and it's dark in there. It was a table of like 6 or 7 guys, and it was a couple other people. It was almost empty. And I hear Bobby. And Ron looks at me and he goes, well, it must be you. And I turn, it was Brian Grazer. And he calls me over the table, and I go, oh, I said, geez, how you doing? Good. I said, geez, I'm surprised you remember me. He said, but gave me this Clint Eastwood, make my day look. He said, I never forget losing $500 million. And I said, you had a chance. And he said, I know, but, and anyway, Ronnie kind of ribbed him, and I said, well, it was nice seeing you guys and Ronnie, and I started to walk away, and I turned back and said, I do have an idea for a ladybug. And Ryan goes, what? And Ronnie laughed, and he said, if I recall, that's the last thing you said to him at the premiere. If you have an idea for a ladybug, bring it. And he goes, do you? I said, no, I'm just screwing with you. I'll come up with one if you want me to. Anyway, the movie, the week it was opening, it opened in New York first that weekend because of time. And Tom went to New York, Tom Gray. And we're going to lunch. He's going to leave the next day, and we're right at Wilshire at Santa Monica Boulevard. And we come to a stoplight, and he said, Herbs, I hope we don't have another Howard the Duck on our hands. And I said, we have an audience. Howard the Duck came out of nowhere, like a meteor. I said, we have kids waiting to see this movie. And he said, well, what do you think it's going to do this weekend? I said, I think it'll do 20 million, which was a lot of money. It held a record for a long time. It's the biggest independent film for a long time.
Until Blair Witch Project.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, that was the next one.
I hate Blair Witch Project. Anyway, so I said to Tom, he said, go, if it does 20 million, Golden Harvest will buy you anything you want. Right then, this two-seater convertible Mercedes pulled up next to us. And I looked out the window, I said, I want one of those. Black with a butterscotch interior. He says, you got it. Okay. Movie does 25 million first weekend, I think.
Something like that.
Okay, I'm on my honeymoon. My lawyer sends a note to him, a memo to him. He said, the car, by the way, the car, because it did over 20 million, just have the car delivered to my office and have him leave the keys with my assistant, and we'll give it to Bobby when he gets back. Okay, so rest of the story for later. So anyway, this movie has changed so many lives. And here's another thing. I talked to Tom Gray. I hadn't talked to him in 20 years. And last weekend I called him. No bad feelings, just we drove 2.5 hours, and the next day another 2 hours catching up. And he told me a lot of things I didn't know about the movie, about the minutia of this movie. He wouldn't come here because he only wants to say good things about people, which is right. I worked with Cheech Marin, and Cheech, whenever we were out somewhere, people always came up to Cheech, people in the business, the stars. And Cheech, I said, what they like? They're great. Everybody. One day I said, Cheech, is everybody great? And he looked at me, a lesson for everybody. He said, Bobby, if you can't say anything nice, remember this is a very small town. That guy could be your boss next year. So just, the only person he poked at was Tommy Chong. They weren't getting along then. And all of a sudden, he said he'd never work with him again. A few years went by, and all of a sudden I see they're on tour again. I said, isn't it funny what money will do? They can get over things, you know? I think they're still doing things. Anyway.
What other challenges did you run into when you were making this film? Like after it was greenlit?
Challenges was writing it. And people ask me, I get the Q&A, but believe it or not, I didn't just sit and write. I wrote drafts, and Megan knows this, and I write long. Clint Eastwood picked up a script of mine that he likes, and he did this to it. He said, too many pages, shorty. It was. I think it's my press corps script, and he loved the concept, but he said, too many pages, shorty.
How many pages was it?
160?
Oh, that's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but Aaron Sorkin writes 200. Aaron Sorkin writes, somebody said to me, yeah, but you're not Aaron Sorkin. I said, you're right, I'm not Aaron Sorkin. So he can write what he wants to write. So anyway, but putting it together, because I was flying solo. In fact, I was writing, remember the earthquake when the World Series in Oakland was going on? I was writing it, sitting at my computer, and that was in San Francisco. All of a sudden my lights flickered and the computer screen went down. I was wrote it on an Apple SC30 that looked like a little TV, right? You got mail. Yeah, you got mail. Anyway, and everything dim that came up. I mean, all the grid, electric grid from that earthquake came all the way down from LA to San Diego, just for a second. And that's when the TV came back on Al Michaels, who I did baseball games with at ASU back in the day. I was a radio TV major. And when I ran into Al, Turtles had just come out, and I ran into him in a Barnes & Noble store. I was going out, he was coming in, and we just did a slow lead at each other. And he goes, Bobby? I said, Al? And we started, well, the movie was in the theater. Is that you? I see, yeah. So it's about me at first. And then I said to Al, so what do you end up doing? You know, I mean, he'd already called a major hockey game of the world. You know, I mean, he was a star now. Did you get into sports? What'd you do? He says, still a little wise ass, aren't you? He got me fired when we were doing games at ASU. So, are you still with me? Okay.
How did you get fired?
He got me fired because I was goofing around too much and telling stories that he didn't want me to tell when we were doing things. Like ditching dines at Bob's Big Boy in Mesa, which is for another talk. Anyway, so when I was putting this together, I tell people, and there's people who don't know who they are, and there's people who do. I watched the Marx Brothers movies because of the way they jousted with each other and the sassiness, because I always tell people, remember, this is teenagers, not little kids, not adults. They're wise-ass teenagers, okay? And in writing it, and in writing meetings, I said, I'm not writing down to the kids. I have to write in the middle because the parents are going to bring the kids. The parents got to go home and say, Mary, you should take the kids. The movie's cute. You won, the parents did it. And I know those of you who saw it, I hope you got it. There were some nice messages in that movie. A lot of people like the fire scene when they're out in the forest and they think Splinter's gone and he appears to them. I get goosebumps still. And he tells them that he loves them. And he tells them that you do not start, basically I'm paraphrasing, you don't start a fight, you just defend, okay? It was just this wonderful moment, and so many people caught on that. And I had a buddy who was a rugby player, and I was in the Long Beach Grand Prix celebrity race, and Stewie, big guy, has his sunglasses on, he said, and in fact, I'm staying with him on this trip. He said, hey, Bobby, I took my kid to see your movie. He had a son, you could see tears. Took my kid to see your movie. It's a pretty good movie. I said, what's the matter with you? He said, well, the scene in the fire, when my son reached over and took my hand and said, I love you, Dad. And he said, I love you, and I said, I love you. And he goes, oh man, shit, I gotta go. And he walked away. And I told him about it the other night at dinner. I said, you remember when you? He said, I remember, don't go over it again. My wife doesn't know what a baby I am. So anyway, Marx Brothers and the Four Musketeer movie with Michael York. Because if you think about that, when they be sword fighting, they be making wisecracks to each other. And then, and so these were what I drew from to design the fights. The other thing I learned, I watched the Star Wars movie because I was interested in the battles. And every battle every battle had a theme. It wasn't, geez, we're 10 minutes in, we need to have a fight scene now. He wrote to lead up to that conflict. And conflict's a very important part of writing, as you may know. And so I wrote it to where whenever there was a confrontation, even if it was just Casey Jones at the beginning, it was set up that there was it wasn't just to have a fight scene. And that was part of the template that I built for this movie. And it also was in the timing of the picture, because it has to come in at a certain point, otherwise people are nodding off. So the wisecracks and stuff and everything leads up. And then the end was great because who won in the end? Splinter. Splinter takes Shredder down. It was great. And Steve Barron, the director, for me, when I go talk to kids, I show the very first beginning of the movie where they set up the crime. What's the next shot? Night. April's coming out from work. She's attacked by those guys. And then I was at the theater. I get goosebumps. She's attacked. And the kids are still waiting to see the turtles. They're just edgy. And all of a sudden, Steve, so great, the manhole cover comes up. When you see the side hit off the wall, then the manhole cover, and you heard the audience go, oh, just a collective, oh. And you see the lights strobing off, police lights strobing off of Raffy's mask, and he goes, damn. Remember? And I went, oh my God. I'm at the theater, I looked at my I said, this is so cool, because everybody is like going crazy, and then they cut to the credits, and what happens? You still don't see them. You see their silhouettes in the sewer, and they're rapping back and forth, and then they come into view, and that theater went crazy. Well, they just screened this in Phoenix, where I live, at Fan Fusion a year ago, and the cast was there, and myself, and we sat in front of the screen, and we did a little talk, and we did a little Q&A. And first of all, we're sitting there, the theater's loading, we're going, no one's coming to see this. Standing room only, 2 nights, packed. And we were like, we all had our cell phones doing this. Look at this, my God, all these people came. These people have no life. They came. Are you kidding? This movie's 30-something years old. And so when it started with the credits, it was like a flashback. The same reaction when the Turtles came on the screen, about 32 years ago, 33 years later, same reaction with the Turtles. And we all looked at each other and said, my God, it's like we're in a time warp here. Truly blessed. And the love for this picture, like other pictures, the Star Wars, we all have a bunch of favorites. But more people coming up to me and saying, someone came up to me here today, a guy at the table came up and said, your movie changed my life. That guy with the saber thing. I thank you for changing my life. How do you answer that? It's not me, it's a collective group of people. And I'm going to tell you 2 great stories, and if I cry, I'm sorry. There's a guy named Cameron Maven who played Major League Baseball. Some of you may remember him. He played for the Angels, I met him when he was playing for the Padres. My buddy was the Padre manager. And that's when Dave Roberts was the bench coach. I see a Dodgers shirt here. Yo, Dodgers! All right, he doesn't understand. But he won't. Okay, anyway. So Cameron, I'm sitting in the dugout of the Padres during batting practice. The manager had me sit and wait for him while he was doing a presser. And the GM comes down with, Dick Enberg was one of my best friends. And Dick comes down with the GM, and the GM looks at the dugout and he said, who the hell's on our bench? And that's Bobby Herbeck. Who's Bobby Herbeck? He's a buddy of pal buddies. Well, what's he do? He said, well, he wrote the Ninja Turtle movie. The guy goes, get the hell out of here. He said he wrote the Ninja Turtle movie. The guy does this. My God, it's him. He comes in the locker room and tells the players. I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, here comes it. They had a pitcher named Cash, and it was like Grizzly Adams, the beard, big guy. He comes and sits down next to me. He doesn't look at me, but when they say this, I know they know. He goes, hey, dude. Hey, dude is like, hey, Jude. Hey, dude, did you write the Turtle movie? I did. He said, that's so effing cool, man. That is so. Then the players start. Now I got 8 of them around me, and Cameron Maven walks up and gets on one knee, and I said, please get up. I said, you're embarrassing me. And he said, Bobby, I love this story. He said, Bobby, I'm playing baseball because of your movie. I'm going to cry. I'm playing baseball because of your movie. My grandma took me, and Casey Jones, I love Casey Jones, he had a ball bat. And I asked my grandma to buy me a ball bat. But for that movie, I'm on the street, God knows where I am, but I'm playing Major League Baseball today because of your movie. It's just incredible to me that you could touch somebody's life like that. And I've met a lot of ball players since, to Dave Roberts and Buddy Black, and they all come up, the Angel player, because I'm the Angel player, the big star for the Angels.
I'm a Phillies fan.
Huh? Trout. Okay, my buddy Black was working for the Angels one year that he wasn't managing, and I'm down on the field. The day Ohtani showed up for the first time. I lived in Okinawa as a kid. My dad was stationed there. Ohtani came out, and I said, I've never seen a Japanese person that tall in my life. I mean, he's tall. He's a big boy. Anyway, Trout came up, and I was introduced to Mike Trout by Tim Mead, the VP of the club. And Trout said, I got to meet you, man. I heard you wrote the Turtle movie, and I gave him a poster and stuff. And then Justin Turner of the Dodgers, you remember JT? JT, big Turtle fan. I'm in the Dodger dugout, and he comes up and he said, I'd love to meet you. He said, I hear you live in Long Beach. I'm a Long Beach boy. And he goes, I love Ninja Turtles. I got to shake your hand. We get a picture, and he said, you can't tell anybody, but I still have my Ninja Turtle pajamas. I said, they don't fit you. They said, no, but I'll save them for my kid. Now we just had a baby boy several months ago, a little redhead boy. So I'm at a Dodger game with Andy Drysdale and Lasorda sitting right by the on-deck circle. Lasorda was always down there. I'm watching the game, and I'm looking over talking to Lasorda, and Lasorda says, hey, JT. Talking to him. I look up, he's swinging his bat, so he hit, and he goes, Bobby, cowabunga, dude. And I go, here? And he says, anywhere, man, cowabunga, dude. And whenever I go to a Dodger game, even when they come to Phoenix and I'm sitting behind the dugout, JT would come out and go, cowabunga, dude. And it was just cool, you know, that they had that much love. People have that much love. I promise I'll stop. I started going to church a month ago. I have a wife that's dealing with dementia. It's life-changing for me. Anyway, Tom Lehman, a very well-known golfer, and his wife invited me to church. I had been in church, and I'm surprised that that building didn't fall down. And I was raised Catholic, fallen away Catholic like many, and it's a non-denominational, and I go because I just felt I needed some help. And Tom and Melissa invited me to church, and the pastor was introduced to Pastor Dave, and they say that I wrote the Turtle movie. He said, "Oh my Lord." I said, "Is that a bad thing?" He said, "No." Now, listen to this story. This was a couple of weeks ago. Our 2.5-year-old son drowned, so he could take a breath, but they revived him. He was in a coma for several days. We were in the other room, and the first words he said when he woke up were, "Where's my Ninja Turtle?" I swear to God. I mean, it's like, you gotta be kidding me. So, it's a blessing is what I'm saying to all of you. So, what else you got?
Not too much.
I'm sorry, don't do it.
No, it's great. I want you to talk about your relationship with Shoe Palace really quick before we open up.
Yeah.
Q&As.
Oh, I'm sorry, we gotta do Q&A, yeah. I got a few minutes. So, my man right here, these guys are great. I met Rob and John. John's family started this, right? The Shoe Palace. Everybody know about the Shoe Palace stores?
Yes.
They're adding more, right?
Yes.
Incredible. Well, tell about the Shoe Palace.
I mean, you know, there's 200 stores growing, but really the reason why I'm here, I'm gonna go straight to it, Bobby, because talk for a bit. So yeah, really, I mean, I'm just here to talk a little bit about the culture of, you know, the things that Bobby has brought to the table, right? Like the turtles, and really, there's a beautiful synergy between that culture, sneaker culture, and really, I'm just kind of here to, like, you know, empower that. And just seeing it, like the stories he's told from, you know, I grew up with, you know, the movie, and now I have a 7-year-old who is now kind of growing up with that movie. So the generational kind of evolution of it has been a beautiful thing, and I think to celebrate 35 years and for him to still be able to kind of have a conversation about it, you know, sit here and like talk through it and remember all those details, I think is a beautiful thing, right? And so really it's about us, you know, continuing a partnership with him and everything he does, and you know, he talked about those movies and those premieres that he's working on, so we're obviously going to be a part of that, but really it's just, I'm just kind of here, obviously honored to be sitting next to him.
Well, let's wait a minute. So we met at a Ram 49er
Tell the
game.
whole story.
No, Ram 49er game. Down on the field, his guys, John and Rob, were you there?
I wasn't there.
John and Rob are down there, and we're just standing, we just got in a conversation. And they had their passes, but they're going, "Hey, we flew down with the team." Okay. And I'm with Tim. I took Tim to the game, Tim Moore, Clint's producer. So Tim's a Bay Area guy, and he was going to get to meet the GM, John Lynch, who's a buddy of mine of the 49ers. But these guys are talking, they go, "You know, we know people." And Tim kind of goes, "Oh, really? Okay." And then here comes Lynchy, and we go over, and I look back at him, I says, "I know people too." And then we go over, and then we come back, and we get to talking, "Oh, my phone, they saw the turtles on my phone." What's with the turtles? And Tim goes, "He wrote the movie." Get the hell out of here. He wrote it. We get this again. Okay, like I always do. It's him. So we strike up a friendship at that football game, kept in touch, and the Super Bowl was in Phoenix 2 years ago. These gentlemen were nice enough to call me and say, "I know nothing about Air Jordan shoes. My grandkid does. I don't." They invite me, is it every Super Bowl that they break out the new Jordans?
Yeah,
Somewhere in there. So would you come to the Shoe, I didn't know what the Shoe Palace, will you come to the Shoe Palace and do an autograph session? Okay, it's Air Jordan Day. I go, there are people the length of this shopping mall to get into their store, and I think they were letting like 8 in at a time so they didn't get mobbed. I go in, and I go, "Are they all coming here for shoes?" They said, "Yeah." My God. So I do a autograph thing. I meet Cameron Jordan, who plays in New Orleans, comes up behind me in a bear hug, and I look back and I said, "Jesus," and he goes, "Cowabunga, dude." And I look at him, and listen to this, another this conversation, small world. I said, "You live in Arizona?" He said, "I live in Chandler." I said, "I went to Chandler High." He said, "So did I." And I said, well, when I played football, our line didn't weigh as much as you do. My line weighed 165. He says, big. I said, you're as big as a planet. Have you met Cameron? He's a good guy. So anyway, the Wheaties people there, I got pictures of all the Wheaties in the background, this board. I said, well, when are you going to put me on a cereal box? I kept asking when I get to go on a cereal box. So they gave me a bunch of swag, these guys and Wheaties, and I leave and they go, you want a pair of Air Jordans? Get whatever I want. I said, no, I don't wear high tops. No. I go back, I go to my grandkids' house, my wife's there, and I tell them, got the Wheaties jacket on, I'm showing all the swag and stuff, and I said to my grandson, I said, they are a big pair of Air Jordans, but I said, I don't wear them. My grandson goes, Pop, go back and get those shoes. These are worth $600. You don't understand. So, because the manager of that store said, if you just change your mind, come back and get them. I said, no, but this sweet man has sent me 2 pairs for my grandson for Christmas and his birthday, the new Jordans. Thank you, my brother. So anyway,
Ready for questions now?
yeah, we can. No, but I want to be sure that you understand. Adrian's here because licensing, I said earlier, is the heartbeat of this business. This kind of business, you know. So, okay.
All right, here we go.
We got a minute? Oh, hi. What's your name?
My name's Josh.
Huh?
Josh.
Hi, Josh. You can speak up. Don't be shy. Yes.
All right. Earlier you said something about women are bosses and that your wife's approval or someone else's wife's approval.
I said women are in charge.
No, I'm sorry.
You don't agree? Are you married?
I'm not married.
Okay, that's why you don't understand this. But when you do get married, you'll see what I mean. You're going to make dinner for us, you go, well, thank you, that's really nice, but why are you using that pan? You'll see.
All right. You said something about, or you said your wife's approval or someone else's wife's approval of the production got the studio to greenlight the movie?
Who greenlit the movie? Well, that was Tom Gray. That's a guy who ran the company who didn't want to make the movie. He thought it was not for Golden Harvest.
This is kids, right?
Well, what it was, here, I have to correct this. I've told this a long time. It was his 2 kids. He told me the other day that his daughter said, well, it's kind of cute, and his son hated it. And I said, what? And he said, it was his son's buddy was at the house and said, no. He told his son, he said, you're a nutcase. The Ninja Turtles are really cool. And he told me the other day, that's why it got made. Because of the kid next door. So to straighten that out.
Okay. Okay. So,
You got a whole
question is,
question?
how did the studio see the? I'm just still confused. You said.
You know what? Do me a favor, because we're short on time. Why don't you come over there, and I'm going to talk to you when we're done. Let these few people, because we got to wrap this up.
Okay.
So let the next guy. But go sit there, and I would love to talk to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, now that the anniversary is here, I mean, is there any long lost footage that you could maybe
I'm
release?
going to tell you an answer to that. Now, I got 2 sides. Tom Gray says no, but I understand that Steve Barron's involved in this mysterious August thing that's coming up. We can't. Steve emailed me the day he doesn't know anything about it, but I know the opposite of that. So it's this big secret. But I'm to understand he has outtakes he's going to show whatever they're doing in August, which we're going to be part of, but they're not letting us know what we're going to do yet. So the answer to that is yes, but Tom Gray says he doesn't have it. If he does, they don't belong to him. So I said, I don't want to, I'm not a lawyer. You work that out.
There is an alternate ending on YouTube, if you search.
Is there really?
Yeah. I sent it to you once, I think.
The alternate to my movie?
Yeah. April O'Neil goes to a comic book shop to pitch her story. And they don't believe it. Yeah, this is real. And then outside the window, Michelangelo's like hanging outside the window. This is real, I swear. It exists.
Really?
You probably didn't write it, but it's out there.
Well, I'll be making a phone call on that
It's out there on YouTube.
Why I never.
Any chance of maybe a extended version of the classic movie? Maybe.
We are always asked at these things, why don't they reboot the movie, which they won't ever. You can't do that. But what we're trying to do is get him to go back to the look of the first 4 movies, because the thing that Michael Bay did, I'm going to tell you real quick, Kevin Eastman, he had invited Kevin to Paramount, and during the lunch, and he said to him, what do you think of the Turtles? And Kevin said, not much. And Kevin said, why did you change the look like that? And he said, because I can, because I'm Michael Bay. And Kevin said, really? You're the biggest a-hole I ever met. Yeah. What was that? I mean, what was that? Even Seth Rogen's last August was better. You know, I didn't like the looks of it, I liked the script. I thought, and I think they kind of pulled from us a little. I got, if I may, but anyway, we're gonna have to go. So next one.
Dragon Ball.
Oh, hey, Bobby.
Hey,
So you did a good job playing Michelangelo. I started watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles since elementary school since 2003. What would be the best 35th anniversary is going to be? My favorite song is Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go.
does anybody know what this man just said? Where Go Ninja came from?
You know, from Dragon Ball, yeah. Can you do the role of Dragon Ball and the Ninja Turtles crossover?
No, I don't.
Oh yeah, that'd be tough to get approved.
Yeah, I get you. No, you're not wrong. I don't know though. I don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry.
I mean, Go Ninja, Go Ninja,
I got you,
Go.
baby. I got you. Go Ninja, go. That could be a whole different genre, but we won't go there. Okay, the lady behind you from Star Wars.
Star Trek.
Star Trek. I said Star Wars. I'm sorry. My bad. I'm sorry. I actually worked on that series back in the day. That's another time. Go ahead.
This is for all three of you. Which is your favorite turtle?
All of them.
Mine is Raphael.
But I'm Raphael.
Me
in
too.
the script.
Yeah. same.
Raffi, if you look at Raphael, Joe Pesci wasn't on the scene, but as time goes on, he's kind of Joe Pesci-like, you know, except for the language. Joe Pesci can't do a line without an F-bomb. I asked my agent if I could write a script for Pesci, because all you got to do is write the F word, and you got a script for Pesci. So, he's actually a good guy. I met him at Lakeside. He's a golfer, and he was out on the range, and my buddy was the president of the club, and I said, I got to go out and see if I'm taller than him. I am, which is cool. But he's got more money. Okay.
Did Adrian answer?
Raphael.
Next.
Raphael. What about Sam?
I said Raphael too.
Three Rafi.
He's got the best lines.
All right, real quick, show of hands. How many like Rafi? This is cool. How many like Leonardo? See, Leo's very big,
It's
very
cool.
big.
I used to.
Donatello. This is a good split. Oh, you're raising again. You like all of them. Okay, and Harry Perkins. No, I'm just kidding.
You gotta get the Michelangelo hands.
Michelangelo. Yeah, Mikey. It's interesting. Now, I really. Huh? Okay, we're gonna go.
No.
You got a minute to do this question?
Yeah.
Okay, what's
great.
your question, buddy?
Yeah, quick writing question for you. So when you had to balance the cartoon versus the black and white comics, because that's kind of, you know, the way you're doing this, how difficult was that to kind of like basically bring influence without breaking the,
You know what, though, I gotta be honest, I didn't go by those. I did what I said earlier. That I came up with a story, which was really pulled from the graphic comic book, a lot of the story, to be honest, it was. But as far as the look, that was up to Jim Henson and the director and stuff, what we got on the screen, you know. So that wasn't real, it was just me writing the story, basically. Okay, that's it.
All right, yeah.
Hey,
Thank you so
everybody,
much.
thank you, Cowabunga, much love, God bless. And when you see the screen, it's going to be at 800 meters in August, so wait, we'll find out what, oh, real quick, I never got the car, by the way. I told you I'd tell you, to this day, and I told Tom the other day when we talked, by the way, I'm still waiting for the Mercedes, which would be very old now, I'll be 35 years old, that car. Thank you. Love you all, mean it.